Welcome back, League Mates and listeners. We are co-hosts Dane and AJ. Sorry, we were on a hiatus for 1 week. We had some big developments going off the air. AJ got married, so hit him with some congrats down below and spend some money on Underdog. Get him some money.
Facts.
But we're back with another Pigskin Pals podcast finally. And in this episode, we're doing something pretty fun. We're going to be going over the 2024 awards and accolades for the NFL season. So we're going to be picking our favorite MVPs, Coach of the Year, Super Bowl picks, offensive players, all of that. And then we're going to come back next year, 1 year from now, look at our picks, see how close we were, and make our picks for the following year. So this will just be a recurring thing. But don't forget to sack that like button and subscribe button like it's Dak Prescott. Let's get stuck right into it.
2024 season award, our predictions. We're starting with the big one, the MVP, and I got Josh Allen. And I don't really have like any super hard and fast reasoning for this, but I think with Stephon Diggs leaving, he will kind of need to show out a little bit more, and Gabe Davis. He'll need to show out a little bit more than he has in the past, and that could very well go in the opposite direction, and he could look worse than he has in the past. But I'm betting on that Josh Allen's a good football player, and that I think Keon Coleman will be pretty good, and he'll have enough weapons around him where he'll look pretty nice. It's just a feeling, just an inkling I got, and I think they'll do their classic push to the AFC Championship game or near it and lose. And yeah, I just think Josh Allen's going to pop off as he does. I think he'll probably need to use his feet more than he normally does. We'll see how it goes. I think he'll just have to do more on his own and not be able to rely on well-known, well-received veteran wide receivers. And it will be what people put more respect on his name after that. Josh Allen, MVP.
I don't hate it. He's always in the running for MVP. My just one concern would be, like how you said, losing weapons, he's going to have to rely on his feet some more. I'm just more worried about how that might affect, like he just might get injured and he's going to be not able to compete for the case anymore. But I chose a pocket passer for my MVP selection. I went with Mr. Joe Burrow with the Slim Shady haircut. And I went with this just because I was listening to a bunch of podcasts and statistics about how great he was last year before he got hurt and after he fully recovered in the beginning of the season. I'm thinking they lost their running back. It's going to be the whole offense is going through Joe Burrow this year. So that's my pick. I think they're going to make it pretty far, too. Their defense has been somehow improving every single year, even though they really only have, like, Trey Henderson and I think Dax Hill is, like, the only two defense players that I can really name on that squad. But it seems like it's improving, and I'm thinking they're going to make it pretty far. It's going to run through Joe Burrow for MVP this year.
I like it. I hadn't really thought about that, them losing Joe Mixon, where, it's like a fairly large loss, but they only got Zach Moss and Chase Brown. I could totally see them running the offense through him. So, I you know what? I can see it. I can see a Joe Burrow MVP. Next, we got Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going to be up front. Dane stole who I wanted. I wanted his pick, but this would be my second choice. So, I got Jaden Daniels. I think he will just be a little bit more flashy and make a couple more cooler plays than like Caleb Williams and have pretty similar numbers and have higher rushing. So I think if a quarterback wins the Offensive Rookie of the Year, it will be Jaden Daniels just because he has that extra little bit to him because I think he'll rush more than Caleb. And I think it'll be more impressive if he does it with a worse supporting cast and puts up the same numbers. So that's kind of why I got Jaden Daniels.
That's what I was thinking about when you were just talking about it, how if he does kind of a similar year to Caleb Williams, the Bears set up Caleb Williams to be fully successful this year. Jaden Daniels just kind of has Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin and some washed up Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson. And
Brian Robinson to go.
Yeah, I was a little surprised they didn't pick Caleb Williams. Like, yes, I think Jaden's going to be way better fantasy related, but Caleb Williams was already looking pretty flashy in some preseason with some no-look passes.
I guess, yeah.
Shuffling it across the side of his body. It will be interesting to see who that top QB1 is. And we can go into my pick. I was kind of weary on picking a quarterback, so I went with the best player in the draft. I went with Marvin Harrison Jr. or the Cardinals. I just think, he's already drafted in fantasy to be elite in that first round. So if he does that, I think there's no question he's going to be that Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Stole my pick. I agree with it 100% with everything he said. I do think he has a very good odds to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Question for you, AJ. We couldn't select Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, maybe even Drake May and Marv. Then who would you be picking from? Would you be looking into the running backs? Would it be Neighbors as your top
Ooh.
choice?
That's a good question. I'd probably just lean Neighbors. I feel like he's going to be just like a alpha in that room, and he'll get a lot of targets and a lot of work. So if it couldn't be any of these guys, I'd probably lean Neighbors. I don't think Jonathan Brooks will play enough. I've heard that he won't be ready first couple of weeks. So I don't think he'll play enough to get it. Is there any other receiver? I think Keon Coleman. I could see Keon Coleman maybe. I'd probably between Keon Coleman and Neighbors.
Big Keon guy over there. But all we know is it's not going to be JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
All right,
Very
next.
true.
Oh, yeah, I guess in one other small tangent. With that recent news, are you looking at Jefferson any different? Are you dropping him a little?
It's tough to say. I mean, we saw at the end of last year, Justin Jefferson come back from that injury and play with a bunch of really, really bad quarterbacks, and he put up some really, really good weeks. And I think Sam Darnold is a better Sam Darnold than he was when he was starting on the Jets and trying to do all that. So I think Sam Darnold might honestly be better for Justin Jefferson than JJ McCarthy is because he's a veteran and because he has a little bit more experience. So I almost think it might be a little bump, personally.
Yeah, maybe. I think his upside definitely goes down a little bit because at least we were able to see McCarthy kind of sort of ball out in his first preseason game. The thing that I would just rebuttal with of him being a better passer than he was with the Jets is, I don't know, like Carolina and the 49ers and wherever the hell else Sam Darnold was, like they were not missing him by any means. They're like, yep, take him, whatever. He's just a fill-in practice squad quarterback.
Sure, but I don't think he's like any worse. He's better than the quarterbacks. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like he's better than the quarterbacks that Jettas had at the end of last year, and he was perfectly fine with them. And if he's not better, he's at least on par with them. So I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, most of them. Nick Mullins, QB1 though. They should have kept him around.
Yeah, Nick Mullins, the GOAT, for sure. For sure. We're moving on. We're going. Defensive Rookie of the Year. This one, me and Dan talked a little bit. This is one we know the least about. I feel like we should don't know that much about a lot of the defensive guys. So I kind of just went based off, I don't know, what they were saying around the draft about this player, and then the kind of the reports out of camp I've heard, and then also the situation. So I picked Jared Verse. Seemingly he's supposed to be a monster coming out of college. He's been doing really well in training camp. And then also, I think the Rams, maybe this is recency bias, but they're like a good organization for a young player to go to. I feel like they develop their players pretty well, and they're pretty good at drafting. And last of all, I think they have a hole to fill. And while maybe they don't play the same position, Aaron Donald is now gone from this line. So there's going to need to be someone who steps up. And I think that will leave some room for Verse to eat.
No, I like that pick. I didn't have the balls to really pick him because I just don't think the Rams D will be all that good, even though it is pretty average or better than average every single year. But I went with another defensive line player. I was just doing some small bit of research during this, and it's most likely it's going to be like an edge defensive line or a cornerback for the defensive rookie of the year. It's really never a linebacker or safety or anyone like that. So I went with Byron Murphy. He is getting all kind of comps, a lot of hype. And I don't know. I'm hoping they got McDonald now over in Seattle. So I'm hoping their defense takes a big step up. They do have a lot of pieces with like Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon in the back, maybe even Julian Love too back there still. But I don't know. Seahawks are kind of like my bounce back team. I was really high on them last year. I was like, this is gonna be so fun to watch.
That's true.
Their offense is like gonna be insane. They got their defense is all right, and they added so many good players. And I'm just hoping they kind of bounce back. He plays kind of a big role in that too, and they just get a lot of W's.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think Seahawks definitely a better defense already than the Rams, so it'll be easier for him to make more happen, I think, and look better because the defense will be better. So I don't hate that pick at all. Moving on to the fun stuff. Offensive Player of the Year. I got my friend Jonathan Taylor. I feel like in a lot of these episodes I've been talking about Jonathan Taylor, especially in like our best ball drafts and stuff like that. I think he's going to have a killer year with that 1-2 punch with Richardson. That rushing attack is just going to be really, really tough to deal with. And I think the Colts in general are going to be really good. And I think that will be in part to the fact that Jonathan Taylor and his guardian Cap are just mowing through defensive lines and scoring 80 touchdowns. So I got JT.
The hype is getting too much for the Colts, honestly. Like, yes, Richardson is electrifying. He's going to be running the ball a lot. But I'm starting to get worried that he's not going to actually be able to come in clutch with some occasional passing throws. And it's not like their defense is crazy elite. They got, like, Buckner, Kwity Paye, Zaire Franklin, Kenny Moore. They just got a lot of like solid blue collar players. I feel like where
Sure.
I understand all the hype and why they should be good. Like all signs point to that, but I'm starting to like put my foot down where I'm just like, there's a lot of unknowns in this team too,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm starting to fade some Colts players.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
maybe I won't have as many as I originally thought on my redraft team.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll go over to my offensive player of the year. I was really between two. It is also interesting. Like, yeah, this really isn't a quarterback award anymore. It's mostly between wide receivers and then running backs. And I don't know. I didn't really want to like. I think maybe I could have stacked Burrow with Jamar Chase or taken
Oh yeah, would have been a good stack.
anyone. But like I feel like that doesn't really happen if I'm on like the Bengals. Or like Tyreek could have been an easy layup too. But I'm thinking the running backs, Brees and Bijan, are gonna be in like the top of redrafts next year. They're gonna be going in that 1, 2, 3 range. So I was choosing between those two. I'm going with Bijan because it's a stack with one of my later picks. But yeah, I think Bijan's gonna be carrying this offense. Kirk there too. Hopefully this team is firing on all cylinders.
I like it. I like Bijan. I agree. I think Bijan, Brees, I lumped JT in with them, but I think Bijan and Brees will be better in terms of fantasy at least. I think all three of those guys are gonna have like super sick years. And I agree with the Bijan and Brees for sure will be up in like the upper echelon of drafts next year. Like the 1, 2, 3 with like Chris McCaffrey if he's still pumping. So I like it. I like it.
What about your offensive
Here
player
we
of the year?
go.
Will it be up there?
What do you mean? I think he'll be higher than he is now. He's like back of the first and start of the second. I think he could be like in that 5-6 type, 5-6-7, like middle first next year. I just think because like Brees and Bijan are a bit like younger and more fun and got a little more gas to him, people will probably go with them first.
Yeah, I feel like Jonathan Taylor almost has that. Jonathan Taylor almost has that Saquon career.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Now, all right, I'm excited about this one. Defensive player of the year is my boy, Micah Parsons. He's been, first 2 years, the past 2 years, he's been close in that voting. He's always just like a force to be reckoned with in every game. Everyone fears playing against this guy. I think he'll get one in the next couple of years. I'm saying that he gets it this year. The defense is only going to be better, I think, under Zimmer, and I think he'll get used in better, more creative ways because Dan Quinn was a bum in terms of creativity and using him different ways. So I think using him in different ways will bring better output, which will lead to a defensive player of the year for my boy Micah.
Yeah, I should have chosen him. I should have locked that in right before you filled it.
Dude, I would have been so pissed. I would have been so pissed.
When Micah was drafted, he wasn't like really known as an edge player, was he? He was more like that field general linebacker.
Yes, yeah. He was more of that, and then he became like basically an edge.
Yeah, that's an impressive career arc. So I mean, it's gonna take time, but I definitely see defensive player of the year coming for him. I went with the Nick Bosa. I feel like I had to choose an edge player for this. Maybe I could have gone like Sauce Gardner if I wanted to choose a corner, but I went with Nick, and I just think 49ers are going to be really good. He's going to be good. That's all I really have to say about this one.
That's good. That's a win.
A lot.
That makes sense to me, honestly. All right, moving on. Comeback player of the year. I got big Kirk Cousins coming back from his Achilles injury. I think he's in another good situation. He's got good weapons. Pitts, London. I'll lump Darnell Mooney in there. Bijan Robinson. He's got everything around him that he'd need to have a nice comeback season, and I think he will have a nice comeback season, and he'll win the award.
And I went with the other easy layup. I went with the other Achilles boy, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Packer fan over here. Got to choose my guy on my dynasty team too. I'm hoping for a big season out of A-Rod again. I mean, it would just be fun to see him kind of play lights out on a different team. So that's what I went with.
My coach of the year, I'm going along with my JT vibes, my Colts hype that Dane is not a fan of, I guess. I'm going with Shane Steichen. I don't know if this is necessarily a hot take because people are hyping him up at this point, but like, I feel like the favorite still for the AFC South, I think that's what it is probably the Texans. I think rightfully so, maybe. I think the Colts will win that division, which will boost up that coach of the year for him. Because I don't think you can really win it if you don't win a division, or at least really go from shit to really good. And the Colts were never really too shit, so I think he has to win the division, and I think he can do that.
Yeah, I think you have to win it too. I think you almost need to get to the NFC, or not the NFC, but like a championship game or far into the Super Bowl too. Because I'm just surprised Matt LaFleur has never won this award, flipping the Packers around so fast after leaving after we departed with Mike McCarthy, and then just always getting us to that playoffs or one game away too, and then rookie year or like first year quarterback too takes us to the playoffs also. So it's not who I actually chose though.
Yeah.
I went with Raheem Morris. I went with my stack of Bijan, where I'm thinking maybe it's not going to run all the way through Kirk Cousins. That's why I chose Aaron Rodgers. And then Bijan is going to be carrying Raheem and the team. I like that. And maybe the dream
Raheem and the
too.
team.
Yay! Yeah, I'm going with him. I think Falcons, they're definitely in contention to win their division and make it pretty far into the playoffs, or at least into the playoffs. So that's who I'm picking.
Here we go. Super Bowl, my pick. I got the Lions versus the Ravens. I think the Lions, they only really got better. This team is really, really good. They were really close last year. I think they're going to be almost a lock. Sorry, Packer fans, to win the NFC North. They're really good. And then Ravens, they've been so close so many times. Lamar is a freak. I think with Derrick Henry, he might just put them over the edge. Zay Flowers taking that year 2 jump. I got them making it to the Super Bowl as well. And then I do have the Lions getting over the hump and winning the Super Bowl. I think that'd be super cool, honestly. I like the Lions. They're a fun team. So I'm really cool with either of these teams winning, but I think the Lions pull it off.
My only criticism is saying that the Lions are for sure a lock division, the NFC North. I honestly think any team could really win the NFC North right now. And I'm saying that because I've watched a lot of Lions games being a fan of the NFC North, and I think there just still is some inconsistency that the great teams don't have. And yes, they are unconventional too with how aggressive and like how much they go for on 4th down and all that, but it costs them so much too. Like it's almost like their little cheat code to be better than other teams, where if they don't capitalize on that, they're not as good as like really, really solid teams that don't need gimmicks to catch up for their lack of team play.
Sure. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I don't know if I agree, but I get where you're coming from. We can move on to your pick.
So I went with, for my Super Bowl picks, I went with the Bengals versus the Niners. I did hedge my bet. I went with the Niners winning the Super Bowl. Finally, they get their dub after just years of being really close and trying. I think if they win it this year, this might be like their last real window to kind of get into it before like McCaffrey falls off. They lose all their offense weapons. Like Ayuk might be even gone after this year or this year too. Debo's having health problems. Kittle's having, like, they're breaking down slowly but surely. I think they do have one more solid push in them. Also, like I mentioned before, big fan of the Bengals this year, so these are my Super Bowl players, and I'm choosing the Niners. So, do we have any more?
No, that is it. But I would like to say I kind of agree, actually, with the take that they are on, like, one of their last legs. I could see, like, this year or next year being the last time they're really this good, and everyone knows they're this good. And I'm kind of excited for that, if I'm being honest, because I don't like the 49ers. So we'll see what happens. That was our accolades, our awards for 2024, whatever you want to call them. I am excited to see how they go, how the season goes, how wrong we are, because we know absolutely nothing. And then we'll
comment yours below.
Yeah, comment yours below.
All right, thanks for watching.